like you may see an oak tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's 30 years old, but under the ground, on the surface level, bro, you know how long those roots are being
50
built?
years, 60 years.
That's why an oak tree, you can chop it down, right, all the way
Mm-hmm.
down to the stub, but those roots can ruin a whole foundation because those roots was there before that foundation was laid. And sometimes, bro, like honestly, like I've been grinding and you've been grinding 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? 20 years, 2 whole decades.
Once again, Remarkable Six Studios, I am G, your business marketer. And listen, I brought today, we brought like game for you. Like we brought game. If you don't catch any episode, if you don't see any episode all the way through, make sure you check this episode all the way through. And why? Because I got the one and only with me. Introduce yourself for me real quick.
Hey, you already know what it is. If you don't know, like he said, I'm the one and only Corey Duval, man. Stay tapped in.
Hey, let's first give them an idea of everything you got your hands in. Like, what all you got your hands in right now?
So first and foremost, if you don't know, most people know me from being one of the best barbers that ever came out of Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm the owner of Hollywood Cuts Barbershop. And so in addition to that, I just started a product company called Akania's Hair and Skin Products. Yeah.
And that's all right now that's going on?
This is all right now.
Because I know, he don't want to give you all the scoop of what's to come, but that's cool because that's a smart play right there. Because a lot of times we, even as business owners, timing is something that we don't understand. That's highly important. Let's touch on the hairstyling, because I feel like that right there is your brand identity.
Correct.
That's where you created a solid foundation with your brand, where you establish like, here I am, this is what I want to do, this is what I do to a high level. What was it like kind of building that brand out?
Well, for me, it was pretty much easy because I started cutting hair at 15. You know what I'm saying? So cutting hair at 15, going through the streets and going through things like that, I just knew how to get to people.
Yeah.
And so when I got my license in 2013, I worked in one person shop. I've only worked in one other shop other than my own.
Wow.
I stayed down. I locked in for 3 years. I built my brand up. But at that point in time, 2013, this is when Facebook getting popping, Instagram getting popping. So I took advantage of the social media aspect. I was the only barber that in the city that was really like killing the game, and that allowed me to really like scale my business. So long story short, I'm a big saver. I save my money. So what I did was I just started like saving a ton of money. You know what I mean? Following the principles from Richest Man in Babylon, and
I just
Rich
read
Dad,
that.
Poor Dad,
Yeah.
Raw Book. I'm talking about Raw Book. And what I did was I just took those principles and I applied it to barbering. I saved up about $22,000. I opened my first shop, the shop that I had downtown.
Because that was across from the library.
Yeah,
wasn't
right
it?
across from the library. I had a team of 3 other people. We was the 4 horsemen, and we rocked out, man. So what I did was same theory. I took my money, I saved it because I was trying to multiply, right?
Yeah.
I took that money. Unfortunately, our shop closed down downtown because of some building issues right during COVID. But I took that money and I opened up the shop in Riverside. And now I have an 8-chair shop, and it's been doing amazing. I've been in business for 7 years.
I like that. I like that mainly because you mentioned something. You said you read a few books that gave you principles. And I think that as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we neglect how important principles are, because principles are what keep you away from failure.
Ooh,
right?
that's deep.
Like, and you were able to, and the thing about it is, being that you mentioned that you applied those principles, I know is you're a man of principles. Like, you've probably built your success off of establishing and staying true to certain principles, even when it comes down to your marketing. Like, you said that you were the first barber in that shop that kind of grabbed hold to the whole social media.
Correct.
And what kind of hindsight did you see, or did you have in that moment?
I could say one thing. Whenever I and you or whoever start to implement things that are different, you're going to get some pushback. So I started getting pushback as being like the not popular guy. Like, what is he doing? You know, like, oh, you can't do this. You know, you think you all that. But I knew something. I knew I was doing something that nobody else was doing, and I knew God gave me a vision. I was 10 years ahead. So it was going to take people time to catch up. So the hindsight that I received was just like, bro, just continue to keep doing what you're doing. And once I received that resistance, I already knew, like, yeah, I'm on to something.
Yeah.
And the same people that gave me resistance are non-existent.
I was about to ask you that.
Yeah, they non-existent. They non-existent.
Hey, that's dope. That's dope because that's another principle. Like on the fact that you were doing something that wasn't popular, so you immediately got that backlash.
Oh yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
But it see, that's the thing about character. Like, your character has to be a certain way for you to get that backlash, but still feel like, nah, I'm about to stick to what I know is gonna be something heavy, something strong. And I can tell by your social media presence now that you've been doing this for a minute. Like, you've been understanding how to communicate creatively to your audience.
Oh yeah, definitely.
How has being able to communicate visually or creatively to your audience, how has that impacted your career, you think?
Well, one, it gives me the opportunity to control the narrative, right?
Yeah.
Being as though, like, I have previous lifestyle in the streets, you know, selling drugs since the age of 16. Like, I had to understand that once I came into the professional world with people who knew nothing about my previous life, that's why I call myself Corey Duval, right? Like, that's not my name, you know what I mean? That's just the name that I use. That's quote unquote my stage name, right? So while the show going, right, I need to control the narrative. I need you guys to know exactly this person who I'm giving you, and it's a representation of who I am, not who I was. All right, so like, it just gave me the opportunity to be able to control the narrative. I've been on social media since MySpace. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had an opportunity to come into a world and a platform to where I've seen the start of it, right? When I was a teenager, and now I'm in the midst of it as an older man and a more wiser man to see the trends of social media, how it does not change. Like, it does not change, it just changes platforms. So I'm like, now we transition from the days of true to finesse. I'm not going to change the integrity of who I am as a person to be a finesser, but however, I can control the narrative. And so I just take all of that and I encompass that and I can control the narrative. I'm going to give you exactly what you want to see.
I like that. I like that because hey, when I tell y'all, like, you definitely want to watch this one to the end. You touched on a whole nother principle. Like, and that principle is the fact that if you don't control your brand's narrative, the people will. Like, the people will.
That's
if you don't give it a solid identity, if you don't give it something solid to stand on, the people will create it for you. But once the people create it for you, that takes control from you, how you want to position what you're trying to do. Whether you want to move from services to products or from products to something else, like, you have full control in that. I like that. What would you say one of the, and let's step outside of yourself, because you've been in business for a long time, since what, 2013 you said?
2013, but I grew up in business. I grew up in business as a kid. My grandfather, my father.
What would you, for business owners that you see within your market, what would you say that the biggest, what would be the biggest shortcoming when it comes to them communicating how their brand is?
The biggest shortcoming is, I guess, doing a self-evaluation and, like, analyzing themselves. A lot of people don't know themselves to be able to communicate with somebody else about what their brand is or what type of mission statement they come apart. Like, honestly, a lot of people don't know themselves. They just know their art form, right? Like, they can't connect their why with their art form, so they're not able to communicate clearly what it is that the viewer or the consumer wants to receive. Yeah, wants to receive from them. And that's the biggest part, I would say, not knowing. Two, not having a proper mentorship. And not really just, like, holding themselves accountable to say, hey, look, I'm doing the bare minimum, right? Like people want people to follow them, But how you gonna expect people to follow you and follow through if you're doing the bare minimum?
I like that, and we off camera we talked about just the past weekend, well, a couple weekends ago at this point, where we had a chance to be at the Invest Festival, hosted by Earn Your Leisure.
Yeah.
That was in Atlanta.
Dope event.
Dope event. Like, and one thing we talked about is how the energy, the showmanship of those businesses, how they actually someone would probably, if you're not from the right market, you will go in there and say they're doing the most. Like, you will feel like they were doing the most. And that's because they were used to competing. If you got a business next to yours, and you somebody that's inside your doors, you waiting for somebody to come knock, but the person next to you got flags waving, they got people in the street, they going out touching the people, you gonna feel like they doing the most. That's because you're not even competing at a level that you want to kind of raise the bar at. Is that something that within the market that we in right here in North Florida, is that something that you see prevalent?
Yeah, I do. Honestly, bro, just a lot of people just lazy. You know, and lazy comes from either the lack of exposure, right? Being consistent at doing nothing that moves the needle forward. Like, you can be consistent at doing good stuff, and you can be consistent at doing bad stuff.
Yep.
Both of them are habits, right? And most people in this market are just consistent at doing very mediocre things, right, for a long period of time. So when they do get around these people like this, who have that showmanship, who have that knock on the door, who have that guerrilla marketing kind of tactics, like, they feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, they feel uncomfortable. But with guys like me and you, this is us. This is our bread and butter. This is how we live. You know, this is what we eat. This is what we sleep. This is what we breathe. So it's going to be a little bit more natural for us. But I do see that as something that's just like, it's haunting.
Yeah.
It's haunting.
Yeah.
Our demographic and our market is haunting us. On the flip side, it makes it easy for guys like me and you. But at the same time, we may be a little bit delusional at how far we are in a success ladder, because we're operating in a market with people who ain't necessarily doing nothing.
Yeah. If you're winning, if you're the champion in the G League, like, how can you really predict how you're gonna compete in the NBA? You know?
You really can't, bro.
You can't.
You can't, bro.
Like, you can't. And that's why, even as through my entrepreneurship journey, like, I know I'm gonna have to move my markets around a little bit. Now, one thing I can say is that I feel like the market is good. This area that we're in is good for creating formulas for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, creating those formulas so that when I do get in the NBA market, I have some principles that I know, okay, this works for me. Let me do this times 10, or let me 10x this process.
Correct.
To see if I can compete in a bigger market. But that's absolutely something that I did feel from just going to that Invest Fest. It made me look at myself. Like, what are you doing? And let me ask you this: being that you come from, you've seen both sides of the table. You've seen the side before social media, where you had to get business before social media was really on and popping like that. But you also seen a side where social media is the majority of people's marketing platform. How have you been able to, like, fuse the two?
I've been able to fuse the two because this is like, and especially in the barber industry and the hair industry, sometimes people get a lot of followers. They're like, oh, I don't gotta do this. I don't gotta do that. Those people who are saying that, I'm gonna run circles around them because I can go out and shake somebody's hand, right? Like, I can go out and meet somebody. Like, when I go to the airport 9 times out of 10, I'm talking to everybody around me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to be like a creature of habit. You know, like, you have to be a spokesperson and not always just promoting your business or your brand, but you just need to get comfortable in meeting and talking to people, and you'll realize that this whole game is a psychological game, right? I came from an era to where, bro, I sold bootleg DVDs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I sold crack. Like, I can't pass out a flyer for crack.
Mm-mm.
You know what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
can't pass out a flyer for weed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had to make sure that I had the best product in the market.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get the best product in the market, it's like, how are you marketing that?
Mm-hmm.
Other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could talk about street people, you could talk about the game, you could talk about all of that stuff. But if you just take it back, the basic principles of selling drugs was word of mouth.
Yep.
It was word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, bro, where you got that from? I got it from such and such.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know,
And you had to have a good product, so that word of mouth to actually.
yeah, it was no finesse.
Well, no finesse.
It was no finesse. If you had a bad product,
They was gonna hear about it.
everybody knew you had a bad
Mhm.
product, and you
Mm.
weren't selling anything.
Mm.
And I think that if we can just erase social media in our minds and utilize those principles, like, I need to have an exceptional product, brand, or service before social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I put it on social media, this is going to help out because now that word of mouth is transferred over into a digital world, and that makes it exponential.
Exactly. That's the key right there. Like, making sure the product or service is top tier. Cause and I'm sure you could say the same thing. What I'm about to say, before I even established a business, I had been doing film work for every bit of 10 years. Like, I didn't just jump out there, and I coach certain business owners, right? So they'll be like 2 years in, and they'll say certain things where, like, they're a little envious of where I'm at currently, and I'm like, you don't even know. That's like, I spent 2 years just doing free projects.
Yep.
Just honing my skills, like, just taking all these courses, taking classes, giving myself the skill set so that I can really step out there, making mistakes,
Right.
making thousands of mistakes.
Oh, it's good.
We talked about not plugging in the mic cord, doing a whole film, like, making mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the part I think sometimes as business owners, we social media has got us into this hyper speed of things. Like, we want things overnight without all the grunt work that is needed, because the grunt work, that's the part that's the character building right there.
Yeah,
That's
that's
the
real
character.
character building, bro. Like, honestly, bro, when you talk about the time frame that's
Mhm.
involved with actual, like let's just say a tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you may see an oak tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's 30 years old, but under the ground, on the surface level, bro, you know how long those roots are being
50
built?
years, 60 years.
That's why an oak tree, you can chop it down, right, all the way down to the stub, but those roots can ruin a whole foundation because those roots was there before that foundation was laid in. And sometimes, bro, like, honestly, like, I've been grinding and you've been grinding 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? 20 years, 2 whole decades. And so with somebody coming in the game, they like 24, 25, and they 30, you know, early 20s and 30s, like, bro, like, there's no way possible you're going to be able to, A, out hustle, B, outsmart, but your skin is not calloused enough to be able to endure the things we are going to endure. And that's how, like, you got to understand it, bro. You can't compare your journey to the next man's journey.
Can't.
You know, even if I gave you all of the game and told you this is what I endured on my journey, you're not gonna foresee it because you didn't actually walk in the trenches.
Exactly. Hey, we just look young. Like, we've been moving, and we have, even just from us talking, we have similar backgrounds, just being in the streets and running business in the streets, and that's given us a certain level of understanding of business, because I didn't go to business school. Like, but that's also why I've went extra hard at understanding business, because don't take away the fact that you still have to build your skill set. Like, you still have to you have to know what you don't know.
Professionally. Professionally, though, right? Because we got this whole generation now, it's like, I don't gotta go to school, I don't gotta take no courses, you know, like, school is dumb, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is a whole narrative, like, I don't gotta do that, I don't gotta get a GED. I have a GED, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've been to college, You know, like I have licenses,
With
I
the
have
full
certificates,
and everything. Then,
I went to FSCJ, so I'm full TV film certified. I have my certification. So like, don't get it twisted when we're talking about like hood stuff and street stuff and where we're going. Like, people are actually educated. So when you're seeing these guys on camera like this, and when you're seeing what we're doing, a lot of this is education too. And I don't want to like water that down.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like growth, like saying get it from the mud. No, if you have time, I'm gonna recommend that you get educated. There's nothing wrong with going to college. There's nothing wrong with taking courses. It's nothing wrong with listening and learning. And I think that's a lot of times, like, so many people right now, they feel like, I'll just figure it out. Like, bro, why would you just try to figure it out?
Exactly.
Like, there's so many tools and resources and tips to be able to help you. You know, guys like you who have companies who want to help. Like, guys like me. Like, even like when it comes down to, it's a website, score.org.
Yeah.
Score.org, they give you a free mentor. These are people that have been in business 30, 40 years.
40 years.
They're doing free webinars, 2-3 free webinars every day about free information. You know, like the Small Business Administration, like, yo, you got to stay tapped in and educate yourself. Don't just open your phone and think that I'm going to learn everything I need to learn off of Instagram.
Off of TikTok with these 3-minute videos.
Right.
And,
This is compressed knowledge. This is compressed. Once you unpack that stuff, you'll see that it's not as easy as what we thought it was.
No, for real. For real. I know I worked corporate for 10 years doing this exact same thing that I do within my business. And that was literally, I know now why God put me there, because the whole time, not the whole time, but when I first got there, I was complaining. I was like, I'm a business owner. Why you got me here? Like, I'm supposed to, I need to be running my business. This is taking me away from my business whole time. He like, no, this is your business school. He had me working directly with the senior vice president and the president of marketing, like they right-hand man. Like, this was information that the school probably couldn't even teach me, you know? But that's, like you said, you can't compare journeys with no other person, because somebody may need to go to business. They need to go to school. They need to go sit down in a traditional atmosphere and learn. That wasn't my path, but I was lucky enough to still get the information in a way that was practical to me, you know. But yeah, that's heavy. That's really heavy.
You said something that was very valuable in this last phrase, and I don't know if you caught it. It connects back to what we were saying earlier, right? About like our previous lifestyles, and you know, when you're exposed to certain things earlier, right? If you had a dad or a granddad that just made you go outside and cut the yard, right? It was developing one thing, and it was called discipline. Right? A lot of people have the knowledge, they have the hustle, but they don't have the discipline. So sometimes we're going to school does, sometimes we're getting a regular job does. It gives you the discipline, because, you know, I got to wake up at 7 to be to work at 8. You know, like, I have this amount of time to complete this amount of tasks in a certain time frame or window. This creates the discipline. So I do advise, actually, that before some people jump out here and to get into business, unless you played on a football team or an organization that requires you to have discipline, I'm going to say first, just work on your discipline. Like, discipline.
That's one of the biggest. That's actually what's taking me out of, I call myself business coaching, and I had people that I was coaching, and the discipline was what took me out. I can't, people lack the discipline.
I got out too. I
they lack the discipline.
I'd much rather give it to a kid for free. You know what I'm saying? I give it to a kid for free who has a more open mind than an adult who has a closed mind with no discipline.
No discipline. It was killing me, because I ain't built like, I understand the skill set of discipline. That's one of your foundationals. Like,
correct.
If you don't got that, then you might just want to go get the 9 to 5 and try to work it through there, because this lane, if it ain't discipline and self-motivation, like, one of my clients asked me, like, well, everybody not self-motivated like you. I'm like, you gotta figure it out. Like, you can't buy that from nowhere. You can't go to somewhere and buy self-motivation. You can't buy discipline. You gotta figure that out. That gotta be something that's a out the box type thing.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
But let me ask you, before we get out of here, I want to talk about your product brand, because you recently introduced your community, your audience, to a new product brand. How was it making that shift? Or how did you properly execute making that shift from service to products? And let me slap one more question in there on you too. Cause I'm gonna ask this because I just finished reading the 50th Law. I don't know if you read that one.
Yeah, 50 Cent book. Yeah.
Yeah, but he talked about how the market dictates the type of product you release.
Correct.
Right? So is that a process you took when understanding what type of product you were gonna give to your audience?
No, they actually didn't because like anytime when you're releasing a product, there's so many demographics. There's so many different people to market to. You just gotta really figure out which one that you want to go to, then realize what's your avatar, right? Because we're all avatars. We got to figure out like what's our avatar. Then we got to choose products that can go in that direction. So I procrastinated for 8 years. You know what I mean? Just saying I'm gonna do it until it got to the point where I realized a barbershop wasn't enough for me to multiply myself. Even though there are several people paying rent or whatever like that, like I need something else that's gonna like exponentially multiply myself, and that was products, you know, and then the next things that I got going on is all multiplication problems. So me doing a product line was very strategic. It was very strategic, but I started to realize there are a lot of products on the market that are very toxic. So what I did was I started in my household. I started removing soap from the store. I don't use lotion from the store. I don't use shampoo from the store. I don't use conditioner from the store. Like, I removed all of that stuff because I started doing my own products. I started doing my own things, and I started to realize that there are a lot of people, especially in our community, who are using very toxic chemicals. Very toxic chemicals. So I was just like, man, you know, like, I can't be a supporter of that. And I'm in this industry for 10 years. I'm using all this stuff on people's hair. And then when I get done with the service, they're like, what did you use on me? Guess what I got to do? I got to send them to Walgreens. I got to send them to the beauty supply store, right? I'm sending people everywhere but back here. So I'm just like, what sense does this make for me to promote somebody else? I could just get a formula, build a brand, right? And have my own stuff. And then what I'll do is I'll build a team of people who believe in it just the same as I do. I'll help them get money by pushing my product out, right? The Madam C.J. Walker theory. I just emulated everything that Madam C.J. Walker did, and I'm employing it into my stuff. The same thing that Paul Mitchell did, I'm putting it into my brand. All right, so the name of my product brand is called Akani. The name Akani means to build together. It originates from Africa, actually. So
to build together.
Yeah, to build together. So if you know, I go back and forth to Ghana, to West Africa. I have a program that I create over there called the Ghana Barber Summit. And I started to realize that it's a lot of disparities over there. So I'm just like, you know what? Outside of me creating an amazing product that people can use and it's non-toxic, no sulfates, no parabens, no toxic chemicals, and none of the products that we offer. Outside of creating an amazing product, I need you to have a product with a purpose. So a portion of all the proceeds from the products that we make and sell will go back to the mission that I have going on over there. It's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I just figured, like, man, like, people will feel really good if every time they purchase a product, it's helping out a cause. Yeah. So right now, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 products. The main products was our number one product is selling is the Citrix Mousse. So I have a mousse, we have a shampoo, we have a conditioner, and we have the lemongrass turmeric soap. Yeah, man.
That's dope. It's
dope. Actually called a healing bar.
That's a winning business model. Like, y'all peep that. That's a winning business model. And then you're the creative director behind everything that. What gives it? What type of imprint when it comes down to visually displaying? Because I've been peeping, like I see it. Because I'm in that world, so I see how you align everything. But kind of give us a breakdown of what was your thought process when you wanted to display how you're going to present this to your audience.
3 words. 3 words I could tell you: professional, clean, and non-ghetto.
Yeah.
I see, you know, and it's nothing wrong with people who are creating products and brand that identify with that part.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to identify with the people who are still of color,
Mm-hmm.
who are still ethnic backgrounds, who are still racially ambiguous, if you
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean, for lack of better terms. I
Yeah.
wanted to create a product that identifies with the people who still familiarize themselves as such, but don't carry themselves as such,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see it all the time. You see the product brands, you know, you see the women twerking, you
Mm-hmm.
see, you know, dudes holding guns, you see people, you know, like smoking or doing whatever. I didn't want any of that
Mm-hmm.
to familiarize with my brand, because when you look at the bigger brands like the Louis Vuitton, you look at the Chanel, you look
Mm-hmm.
at the, you know, like the Dior, you look at all of these different brands, you don't see their
You
stuff.
don't see none of that.
You don't see that stuff, and there's a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
They're not saying that that stuff isn't okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not what they're promoting. So in my mind, I'm just like, let me hold myself to a higher standard level, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I hold myself to a higher standard level, that means that my price points that I'm asking,
Gonna reflect.
it's going to reflect. So that's the reason why I really positioned things the way that I did with that.
Hey, and even when it come down to, and I know a lot of y'all probably not gonna like this statement, but even when it comes down to the micro pieces of content, like if you go check out his brand, you'll see that you don't see videos with him positioning the camera on the table, angles wrong, lighting wrong, talking about his product, talking about his brand, holding it up. Like he, one thing about your brand is that it only takes one time. Like it only takes one time for it to be positioned wrong.
Ooh.
Like one time. Like with all the work that you've done, you can put some content out that's gonna totally negate everything that you've done to position it.
Right.
Right? And I think and we have this thing with small businesses where we just like, we just do something. Just promote it. Just get on live, or just cut your camera on, record it on your phone and put it out there. Like I get that part, but when you're trying to build a high-end brand, when you're trying to build a brand that only a certain demographic or type of customer you want to attract, you got to be really careful about how your content looks.
Correct.
Like you have to be really careful. When you go check out his brand, you see it's not one piece of content on there that looks like it was put together on the last minute.
No, we're not doing that.
It's not nothing like makeshift up there. Like everything is pristine. And of course you have to, as a business owner, you have to have a budget to make sure that your stuff it looks that way. But sometimes it's better to wait for the budget than to. And Jay-Z got a saying that he goes that he said never jeopardize your brand for anything. Like ever.
It's deep. And sometimes, you know, with that, the growth may be a little bit slower, but I would recommend somebody spending 2 years and just building a brand and a framework, and then focus on the longevity of it after that, than trying to come out the box and you trying to get the results in those 2 years, right? Like, I'm not looking to make no money from this brand within at least the first 2 years, because I have other avenues of cash flow that I have to be able to supplement my lifestyle. So that way I'm not rushing anything with this brand. You know, paperwork is right. You know, the business part is right. I don't have any debt on this new business. Like, these are some of the things that I'm employing. So that way, when it's time to pass this down, you know, the integrity is there. It's there.
I like that, and then you can tell that you implementing this business has come from years of experience.
Yeah,
like how you
definitely.
just broke that down. Like that's come from years of experience. So, man, it literally makes me it just brings that correlation between like the LeBron James and the Metsies. Like when you've been doing something at a high level for so long, that anything that you touch is gonna be high level.
Oh, yeah. It's a must, bro. It's a must. You got to. You got to.
Man, hey man, it was a pleasure talking with you, man. I know we like I said, y'all definitely needed to get through this whole spiel. And the thing about it is this, and we'll touch on this last thing. I'm gonna see if you agree with this on there. But I was at the Invest Fest. I seen some people commenting, and they were saying like Diddy didn't even say anything, or they was just down in the type of conversation that was on stage. And one thing I did this 2 years ago. I prayed and I asked God. I said, allow my ears to be tuned to be able to pick wisdom out of conversations, right? Like when Diddy was talking about certain things, and for one, we gotta be honest, like he's a billionaire. He start talking business with you, you're not gonna understand what he's talking about. But if you have your ears tuned to pick up the wisdom out of conversations, that's when you're able to grow from conversations where minds are being brought together to build something. Were you able to kind of pick up on that as you heard those billionaires and high-end entrepreneurs speaking? Were you able to pick wisdom from their conversations?
Yeah, I actually was. For me, it's going to be a little bit different because all of those conversations are really like second nature. So I'm like a walking podcast, bro. Like I don't watch TV, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not around here.
Yeah.
Like no offense to nobody, but I'm not sitting around watching the freaking football game, bro. Like I'm not finna spend my whole Sunday watching 4, 5, 6 hours of football. Like I'm not finna be doing the things that the average person does. So a lot of this linguistics, right? Like that's where the short term lingo, that's where it comes from, linguistics, if you don't know. But a lot of these terms, I'm familiar with these terms. So for me, it's just like second nature. It's like me going there, hearing this stuff and refilling my cup, and it's confirming all the stuff that I already know, and it's boosting me up. So now I can bring that back. Right? Because all it is a conduit, right? Like I'm the conduit, so I gotta go in these environments and bring this information back to my people and hope that our people are able to digest this information in a way and form that it moves us forward together versus separates us like with the comments and things like that because they don't understand.
Don't understand that the ears aren't tuned to pick up the wisdom that's within the conversation. Cause some things, and that's even we about to touch on a couple things, like even the whole principle of the Bible, like parables, like the wisdom is you have to be a seeker of it. Like you just said, I don't spend my Sundays doing what other people may call a leisure time.
I live a boring, lame life, bro.
Man, my life is so boring right now, but I'm literally the happiest I've ever been.
And that's true. Like people have to understand, you gotta do what makes you happy. So when people be like, "Oh, bro, you're not having fun. You're not having fun, bro." Me sitting in front of the laptop after cutting hair all day, editing videos, learning stuff, that's fun to me. You know what I'm saying? And when you want to talk about the real fun, I delay my gratification. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I delay gratification, bro. I will go on a trip across the world to some place you've never seen before. That is fun to me.
Yeah,
like
not going out every weekend.
I don't want to go out every weekend, bro. Like you spending $200, $300, $400 every weekend. I just created a brand that's paying me $50 to $75 a day.
See?
So you pick and choose what you want to do, but I'm gonna tell you sometimes those actions, that we choose is not gonna move the needle forward. I think that's the topic of it.
That's the
move the needle forward, man.
Like for real, like and it's good to be in company of people that think like that, because that's literally where I be at. Like I tell this one of my homegirls, I'm like, yo, my life is boring right now. Don't expect to get around me and to be doing all, like, my life is boring. Like if I'm not watching TV with you, I'm reading. I done read 6 books in the past month. Like, and I ain't reading stories about no wrong. Like, I'm reading books that's gonna pour into what I'm doing. Definitely. Like podcasts, courses. People don't understand. I literally buy a new course every month. That's right. Like, I want to learn something. I want to be a student of the game. Like, a mentor that I had 2 years ago, I've moved past that mentor. Like, cause they were one that don't want to be a student no more. Like, you stop being a student, you got stagnant. I continue learning, and now the student becomes the teacher. Like, cause I refuse to be stagnant. But yeah, it's good to be in company of someone who understands.
You too, bro.
That.
Like, especially on coming off of like holiday week and coming off of that high from Invest Fest, right? Like, being around other people like that, that is a strategy. So when I
Mm-hmm.
hit you up, that was very intentional. You know what I mean? That was very
And you
intentional.
move intentional, I can tell.
Yeah,
With
yeah,
everything,
very
because
intentional.
time is very important.
Yeah,
Like,
it's our currency, bro. Like,
hmm
I can lose $1 million, bro,
and you can get that back.
but if I'm on my deathbed today, bro, it means
Mm-mm.
nothing.
Nope,
It
that
means
time,
nothing.
that once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah,
Mm.
bro, it's a blessing just to, you know what I'm saying, just to be in company, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, being invited for an interview, first of
Mhm.
all, bro, because you could have been doing a million other things with a million other people, but you chose me to come on, bro, and I definitely appreciate that,
Man,
bro.
I appreciate you for coming on, just dropping these jewels to the community. Cause like I see how you move, and you are a vital piece of the community. And anyone who thinks different is only
Damn, bro.
cutting themselves short. You
That
know.
was a very emotional moment.
Nah, for hey,
You
that's
know
real
what I
talk.
mean?
That's
Like,
I'm glad I got a chance to say it to you, not just in person, and so that everybody else can see. Because like that's we gotta be able to put our pride to the side and let people know what's really going on.
hey man, so you can follow me on all social media platforms. I am Corey Duval, IAMCoreyDuval. Make sure you tap in with the new brand, Akani Naturals. That's AKANINATURALS. And yeah, man, you know,
Hey, y'all got another one. The bars was dropped. Till next time.
you already know what it is. Yep.
Yes, sir.